I still don't know how long he'd been behind me, walking at the same exact pace, matching every step I took. But I'll never forget the moment he whispered my name, even though I never saw his face and I never told him who I was. My name is Daniel Ruiz. This happened in the fall of 2022 when I used to take late-night walks around my neighborhood in Astoria, Queens. I worked a late shift at a small Italian restaurant off 31st Avenue, and walking home at midnight was kind of my routine. It helped clear my head. The streets were usually quiet, just the rumble of the elevated train far off in the distance and the buzz of the neon signs outside the corner deli. That night felt normal at first. The air was cold and smelled like the rain that had fallen earlier. I remember adjusting the strap of my backpack and passing the same old laundromat with the flickering open sign. Everything was exactly the same as always, except one thing. A streetlight at the end of the block kept blinking, not flickering, blinking, like a slow, steady rhythm. On, off, almost like it was signaling something. I shrugged it off. New York has a million electrical problems. I kept walking. I even stopped at a 24-hour bodega to grab a bottled iced tea. The cashier nodded at me like he always did, the hum of the old refrigerator rattling behind him. But when I stepped back outside, I noticed something strange. A man was standing at the far corner of the street, still, completely still, facing my direction. I didn't think much of it. People stand around all the time in the city. But when I started walking again, I heard it. The echo of footsteps behind me, soft, slow, in sync with mine. Each time I slowed down, they slowed. Each time I sped up, they matched. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe my imagination, maybe someone else heading home the same way. But the dread in my stomach kept growing. I turned onto my block, which was always the quietest part of my route. Brownstone buildings, trees lining the sidewalk, not a lot of people out after midnight. And yet, the footsteps behind me didn't stop. I didn't want to turn around. I don't know why. The idea of actually seeing the person behind me, it made the hair on my neck stand up. At the halfway point of the block, I finally stopped pretending it was normal. I slipped my hand into my pocket and pretended to check my phone, trying to catch a reflection in the screen. That's when I saw him. A tall figure, maybe 6 feet or more, wearing a dark hoodie, head lowered, standing just far enough that I couldn't make out a face, just the outline, but he was facing me, directly. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Then he raised his hand, not waving, not pointing. He lifted it to his face and pressed a finger to his lips. My heart dropped. I turned away immediately and started walking faster, but the footsteps came back, quicker this time, matching me again. I reached the gate of my building and fumbled with my keys. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped them. When I bent to pick them up, I heard it, clear as day, a whisper, a man's voice, low, right behind me. Daniel. I froze. I didn't turn around. I didn't want to see him. Some primal part of me told me I shouldn't. I shoved the key into the lock, swung the gate open, and slipped inside. I slammed it shut, locked it, and backed away from the bars. For a second, everything was quiet. Then he stepped into the glow of the streetlight. He wasn't wearing a hood anymore, but his face, I can't explain it. It was like he was trying to smile, but didn't know how, like he was copying the expression from memory. He stayed completely still, staring. Then he lifted his hand again and tapped the gate bars 1, 2, 3 times. I ran inside and didn't look back. The police said he probably followed me from the train, that it was a random creep. They patrolled the area a few nights after that, but nothing came of it. But here's what I can't stop thinking about. I never take midnight walks anymore. But sometimes, around the same time, between 12:30 and 1 a.m., the motion sensor light outside my building switches on. And last week, when it did, I heard the same pattern, the exact same rhythm. And I swear I heard someone whisper my name again. But this time, it came from inside the gate. My name is Aaron Miles. This happened in early 2020, back when I lived in Tacoma, Washington. I used to take late-night walks after getting off my shift at a 24-hour grocery store. It wasn't the safest habit, I know, but I liked the quiet. The streets around my apartment near South 38th Street were usually empty after midnight. Just the hum of traffic from I-5 and the occasional barking dog in the distance. That night felt like any other. I had a warm bag of Safeway deli chicken in my backpack, my earbuds wrapped around my phone, and my hood pulled up against the cold. The air smelled like wet pavement and pine trees. I remember passing the old auto shop with the broken security light. It kept buzzing, this annoying flickering sound it always made. Nothing unusual, except the crosswalk button at the corner was already lit, like someone had just pressed it, but no one was there. I shrugged it off. Someone probably walked through seconds earlier. I kept going, taking my usual shortcut through a row of duplexes. Almost everyone there worked early morning jobs, so their lights were off. The only thing breaking the silence was the soft squeak of my shoes on the wet sidewalk. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Behind me. Very light, almost hesitant. I told myself it was just another late walker. Tacoma has plenty of insomniacs. Still, I slowed down a little, just to see if the steps would change. They did. They slowed with me. That's when the hairs on my arm stood up. I didn't turn around. I just picked up my pace, hands shoved in my pockets, trying to act normal. By the time I reached the small playground near my building, the footsteps were closer. Too close, like someone was only a few feet behind me. I kept telling myself it was fine, that I was overreacting, but my chest was tight. Then I heard breathing, not mine. A low, uneven inhale, then a shaky exhale. Right behind me, I spun around so fast I almost slipped, and no one was there. The sidewalk was empty. The street was empty. Nothing but a rusted swing creaking in the wind. I remember standing there, heart pounding, waiting for someone to step out from behind a tree or a parked car. But the whole block was dead still. I forced myself to keep walking, but slower now, listening. That's when the swing stopped moving. Not gradually, just a sudden stop, like someone put a hand on the chains. I backed away a little. My building was only 2 minutes from there, but it felt like forever. I pulled out my phone and pretended to talk to someone, hoping it would scare off whoever might be messing with me. I made it to my block and finally relaxed a bit. I could see my building's front porch light. But as I passed the row of trash bins, something made me stop. A voice, very close, almost brushing my ear. Keep walking. I jumped so hard the bag in my backpack crinkled. I turned again, full circle this time. Nothing. No one. Just the empty sidewalk and the flickering porch light of the apartment next door. I ran. I didn't care how stupid I looked. I sprinted to my building, fumbled with the code lock, slammed the door behind me, and stood there, back against the wall, breathing hard. And then I heard it, from outside, through the door, someone exhaling, slowly, right on the other side. The police told me it was probably a drunk neighbor or someone messing around. They didn't take it seriously because I never saw anyone, and maybe that's the worst part. I never saw him. But for weeks after, every night around the same time, I'd hear breathing outside my apartment door. Just one long inhale and one trembled exhale, like someone was standing inches away, listening. And the last time it happened, about a month later, someone whispered through the door again. But this time, they whispered my address, and then they laughed. My name's Evan. I live in Rochester, New York. I started late-night walks after a breakup. The air there in winter is sharp. I'd leave around midnight, take the long loop by the Erie Canal, past the old laundromat on Monroe, then back under the sodium lights. I carried a cheap flashlight and a Dunkin' cup sometimes. The routine felt like a fast reset. The first odd thing was small. A man in a gray hoodie stood under the bridge one night, just watching the canal. I gave him space. People sit alone under bridges. He wasn't aggressive. He didn't move. He just watched the water. I passed and kept walking. Later, I thought nothing of it. Maybe he was homeless. Maybe he was waiting for someone. A week later, I noticed footsteps. Not right behind me, but a beat off. I'd speed up, the footsteps would match. I'd slow down. They slowed too. It was unnerving, but every time I turned, there was nothing except the empty sidewalk and my own flash of breath in the lamplight. I told myself it was a stray dog or someone jogging. I started checking my phone more, pretending to be on a call. Then came the second incident. I was 2 blocks from home and saw a figure standing under a street tree. He was on the sidewalk ahead, hands in pockets, facing away. I crossed the street to give him room. When I looked again, he had turned and was watching me. He raised his hand as if to wave, but he didn't, Just a small, slow movement. I felt my stomach drop. I walked past him faster, not making eye contact. Once home, I locked the door and sat on the couch for an hour, listening to the hum of the old freezer. A few nights later, I came home to find a small pile of pebbles on my stoop, neat, arranged in a line from the edge of the step to the threshold. No note, no shoe prints in the light snow, just the stones. I threw them away into the trash and thought, fine, kids messing around. But the feeling of being observed stayed. The thing that made me panic was the Polaroid. I found it early on a Sunday, slid under the door so quietly I didn't hear it land. I was still half asleep. The picture was of me walking away on Maple Street, head down in my jacket. The timestamp printed at the bottom matched 12:43 a.m., the exact time I passed that corner. The photo wasn't blurry. You could see the back of my jacket, off the shoulder seam, the dent where my flashlight clipped. Someone had been close enough to take it cleanly. I took it to the local PD. They were polite and took a report. They checked nearby cameras, a few private feeds, but nothing showing anyone approaching from the building lines that night. No footprints in the snow around the stoop. No evidence. Probably someone with a Polaroid, the officer said. Creepy, but not illegal yet. They gave me a case number and a business card. I felt silly and exposed at the same time. After that, I stopped walking alone. I tried daylight routes. I asked friends to come, but the habit had stuck. One night, I drove to the canal with my friend Jason and we walked together. Halfway down the path, I glanced up and saw a shadow move along the opposite bank, the same slow, deliberate gait. It paused every time we paused. When we stopped under a light, it melted back into the dark. I felt watched like never before. Jason said he couldn't see anyone, but agreed to walk me home. A week later on my doorstep, another Polaroid. This one was taken from inside my doorway, angled down. It showed my kitchen table and the back of my head as I unlocked the door. The film edge had a smudge of dirt. There was no explanation for how someone got so close without leaving tracks. The police increased patrols that month. I changed my route, installed a porch light and a cheap doorbell camera. Sometimes the camera would catch nothing but black. Once it flickered at 12:43 and saved a grainy thumbnail of a person turning away from the lens. The footage was too dark to identify anyone. The files were frustratingly small. The officer who came by said, "He's careful." That sentence sat in my head like a stone. I kept thinking the person would get bored and stop. That never happened. Months passed. Sometimes I'd find a small pebble on the stoop, sometimes a Polaroid, once a scrap of paper with a single word, walking. I burned most of them. I never put them online. Who would believe me? A guy with a routine and a pile of photos? Now I walk with headphones in and a friend on the phone. I check the camera feed every morning. I sleep with my door locked and the light on. The canal is still there. The route is the same. The lamps still buzz. And every so often when I walk past the corner at night, I feel a beat behind me that isn't mine. I turn and the sidewalk is empty. The street is quiet. The only sound is the echo of my own steps and the faint click of a camera shutter in the dark. Last week, the doorbell camera saved a new clip at 12:43. 1 second of darkness and then a flash. On the thumbnail, I can just make out a shape standing close to my porch, holding something in both hands.